Good morning. Welcome everybody to Splintered Grace. My name is Bonnie Violet and I'm glad you're here. And this is
Tina Frank. Welcome back, everybody. Happy Monday.
Yay. Three weeks in a row.
I know. And we got it together and everything. It's like, wow. I don't normally have my makeup on this early in the day.
Right. And we're live on a few more streams this morning. So if you're on a new stream, welcome to Splintered Grace. So where are we going to get started?
Phew, I don't know. That's always a challenge. So I don't know. How was our weekend, I guess?
Yeah. I wanted to, I guess there was this weekend I had a couple people in my life who passed away. I lost a friend to cancer and another friend, I'm unsure of how he passed, but I just want to acknowledge Jake. Jake's brother Isaac also passed away, and Michael Swenson. Thinking of you all today. Guess to just kind of get that out here in the beginning because it's a little bit on my mind. So we talked a little bit about possibly, like we've been talking about kind of our relationship up until last week when we kind of our relationship stopped, I guess. Maybe because we had some misconceptions about one or the other. And then we didn't necessarily say this out loud, but it was 20 years before we connected like this again, there was 20 years of us being distant or different from what we had been even prior to that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Time flies.
Yeah. What did you think? What kept you from reaching out to me? If that's okay to ask.
Yeah, that's fine to ask. And sorry about bringing up your weekend. I knew you had a rough weekend. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
No, I feel good.
To be honest, a lot of that time I was so busy, and I hate that word busy. I try not to use it even today because really busy is not a productive word for anybody anytime. But I was caught in that busyness, convinced that I didn't have time for anything, and just trying to take care of my own challenges that I was having over those 20 years, raising the girls, figuring out all the things that I had gone wrong in my life. And then the moments that we would get together as family, that's when I was like, okay, how do I approach not just you, but all these family members? Because for me, because of where I was at and all the busy, I don't know what else to call it, but crazy maybe in my life, I really wasn't keeping on touch with anybody. Not my mom and dad, not my sisters, really nobody. So when I started to realize that I needed to build a relationship, and for me, that was at a time when I decided I needed to get back in tune with what my roots were. And it came at a time when I was really, really lost for myself. I remember having a moment where I was crying and I was all by myself. My kids were probably at school and I was at home, and I'm like, I don't even remember being ever happy ever in my life.
Wow.
And I thought, what is it? When have I ever been happy? And in that moment, a visual came of the day I gave my life to Jesus. And when that happened, it reminded me of all those things that I had pushed down, all those moments where we were together as a family, all those moments when you and I hung out, all those moments in my life that were happy. Now, during those moments, I didn't think I was happy. You know what I mean? We're in the middle of doing whatever it is we're doing, and we weren't happy. And in that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, the one place that my safe place was the place that I isolated in the times that I needed the most. And that was when I made a conscious decision. And I know it wasn't for you specifically, but it was for an opportunity to reach back to family, which opened me up to not only experiencing a relationship with who you are, but a relationship with who I am and my brokenness and all the things I needed to work through, and how I and my perception of life had kept me from not only a relationship with you, but the relationship with every other member of my family. Because I left and I didn't I didn't look back.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. So for me, that moment was that looking back. And then when I went back, it was so uncomfortable. And you hadn't even come on the scene yet. I was just going back to see my sisters and my mom and all those things. And when I realized that you were coming back with home, and I don't remember what year that was or how long it had been, I was embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
I was embarrassed because I thought, gosh, I haven't really talked to Duane in years. I don't know anything about you. I felt really bad that I know nothing about your life. I don't even know where you're living right now. I just didn't know. And so then I had to go through a process of feeling guilty, being subconscious, being nervous about what that interaction would look like. How would I even say hello to you? Would you even want to say hello to me? So I went through a whole gamut of things over time. And I'm grateful that I was able to take baby steps and start somewhere. And I was really frustrated because, and I hope you don't mind me going on just for another moment.
No, you're right.
The moment I decided that I needed to reconnect with my family, I made the decision to reconnect with all of my family, not just parts of it. But I wanted to start with my parents because I had been at large from my parents a little bit as well. And then my mom got breast cancer. I was so mad. I don't remember what year mom got breast cancer, but I remember being so mad that after all this time, I was mad at myself first because I had wasted all this time because, as we talked about already, time goes by so quickly. And then I was mad at God. How could you let this happen? I didn't even consider the fact that it wasn't really about me. But I was so upset that God would allow this to happen after I finally got my act together just enough to want to make contact. So that was a struggle. That was a struggle. And then with each family member and some of my family members, I'm still working on, as you know. It's kind of going back around that mountain or that cycle, and overcoming the things that I have within myself, and choosing each and every time to love, no matter what comes up. No matter if it's good, bad, or whatever, I'm going to choose love. I'm going to overcome whatever offense I may have had that put us at large. And what I find in most instances is that really nothing happened.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, it seems like the longer you take to have those conversations, it feels like the harder it is to begin them. Yeah,
you're exactly right. And for no reason.
Right. We're all just kind of coming up with our own story. Like for me, I was coming up with my own stories in my head about why you were uninterested in my life or whatever. But also I was doing my thing too, I think you go through a point of life where, at least for me, it's like, I'm going to hang out with those who I'm going to know. I feel like they know me and they love every part of me, and I'm going to hang out with you. Because there's so many people in the world and there's so many things going on that it can be, I don't know necessarily easy, but there can be opportunities to get away from people that you maybe even want to be in more contact with, and kind of get into being somewhere else, which actually might even be a better thing at that time.
I guess that's possible. That's how I kind of equate busy. Busy to me is something that keeps me active and moving, but not necessarily moving in a direction, and not necessarily moving in the direction that I'm supposed to be moving in. I think it can be used sometimes to steal from me. I felt like it was stealing from me and my relationship with my family. Because again, like I had said in the beginning, God doesn't want us to be at large from our family. We were all put together as a family for a purpose. And all that busyness I had in my life, or that I thought that I was busy, stole that from me. It stole 20 years from our relationship. I have other members of my family that it equally did that much damage. So it's a process. And so that busyness and every area of our life, I think it can hit us.
Yeah, I definitely have that busy gene. I feel like, I feel like, I feel like that was kind of my coping mechanism for me. A lot of my busyness was always good stuff. It was always
Yeah.
like, trying to do good, doing the right thing, partially because my motivation was I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Like I have to somehow do something worth a shit to matter, which was like a very selfish drive. But initially, that's really kind of what I was actually kind of thinking a lot of fear.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I know
Uh-huh.
you have some other questions here as well, but I'm going to ask you a quick question while you're pulling up Adam's. Who were you allowing to decide if what you were doing was worth it or not? Was worth any salt?
Well, it was always me. It was always me, but it was always like under the guise of my perception of
Gotcha.
you seeing me,
Okay.
So I mean, it felt that way because I felt like in a lot of ways I was really grateful that like when I got back to Idaho and I was in Boise and I was running an AIDS organization, I was actually I hated being I felt like I was under a microscope and that everybody was kind of watching me, and that was a really hard pressure, and that was like my own shit. That wasn't necessarily the truth of everything, but that's the way that I was experiencing it. But in a lot of ways, it also helped me, I think, make good choices for myself that could have, I think I got sober sooner because I was worried about what people would think and because I needed to do these other things. And I stayed in my marriage a little longer than maybe I needed to. And I stayed in other relationships a little longer than I needed to because I was concerned about what other people thought instead of really getting real with myself on what it is that I want and what it is that I need. But, I feel like the older I get, I don't have that same drive anymore. I do experience grace at times where I don't feel like I have to earn worth or value, but it took me a long time to kind of get to that space. And I realized too how much I sacrificed. Like I knew I was working really hard and I thought it was for all the good. And I knew I was not having time with my family and I wasn't, doing all these sorts of things. But I was kind of like in my head, like I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that sacrifice. It's for the greater good, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But now now I'm experiencing what it was like to sacrifice all that. And now I feel like I'm in a space in which I get to sit with the ramifications of living my life like that for a while. And that's okay. And I'm just grateful that I have an opportunity to learn that and to hopefully, find a way to kind of not continue living like that at least. We're getting a lot of stuff this morning, which is exciting. Hi to Shania and Terry and Bob. And then I'm trying to figure out.
Adam has some questions for you. There's Donnie.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say this because I feel like this was part of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
As far as enemies. And then I didn't read this one yet. You did so much for the community here in Boise. I'm glad to have been a part of that journey. You taught me so much about love. A lot of the people that I got to work with taught me a lot about love. I like my drive was so bad about just trying to prove myself worthy as a queer person, as a person living with HIV, as a person growing up poverty, all this sort of crap that tells me that I'm not lovable or likable. And to be able to be in the position that I was in, to happen to run an organization and work with beautiful, amazing people like you, Bug, who loved me anyway. I don't think people realize how transformative that was for me. It allowed me to show my wounds, if you will, and what I were blemishes, and you loved me anyway. And I didn't feel like I could get that from church or my family really. And that might not have been true. I just never gave them that up. I didn't give them, we had moments, but there could have been a lot more, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all guilty of that in a sense, because I think we all have our things that we fight within our minds. Mm-hmm. And you and I, Duane, I know you and I, we're achievers. We're people that set a goal and we go get it. And we're very driven. We're very motivated. We want to accomplish all that we can. And I think part of the challenge is getting out of our heads long enough to keep ourselves grounded in that area that we need so that we can be the most excellent.
Right.
You know, thank goodness we can always come back around. Here we are 20 years later. And I'm grateful that it's not so far down the road that we can do something like this. And so I'm excited. But yeah, I think we all struggle with those things in our head. And you know, people label it different things, you know, people pleaser or whatever. But hey, it's life.
Right.
People think about me when I walk in a room. I don't know that I care as much anymore as I used to, but I'm definitely conscious about what people think. I'm going to have to do that as I'm planning to walk into a room.
Right.
Which is why we hesitated when we would get together. What's Duane going to say? What do I say to Duane? What if he says this? Or what if I say this? Or what if we, you know, we're out? And I get stuck in my head every time. And not just with you, with other relationships I've had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm tired of having my relationship stolen from me. So I'm choosing to not let that happen anymore.
Right.
So anyway,
Yes.
Looks like we had a question from Adam. Did you want to answer that?
Yeah, we can go to that real quick.
It's up to you. I just don't want us to forget it.
Good. Hi, Adam, if you're still there. What does dressing and drag mean to you? And does drag mean you are questioning your gender identity, or is it just for fun? So that's a complicated question for me. Dressing and drag for me is, it is wrapped in my gender identity. I didn't know that initially. Hi, Adam. I'm glad that you're still there. I didn't realize. So what drag did for me is it kind of opened up parts of myself that I didn't even realize, parts of myself that I hid for so long, which were like my femininity and my gender. You know, I do identify as being trans and being gender queer at this point in my life. And I feel like I came to understand that when I was finally able to kind of like being in drag gave me the ability to be able to go to the extreme. And then I can find myself somewhere in the middle, because where I wasn't quite the way it was. I don't know. It just, that's what it's been for me, but drag isn't like that for everyone. You know, like it's for some people, drag is, you know, it's a persona that they put on, and they put on a show and they give life, and it's a great experience, but it might not have anything to do with their gender identity. And so for me, that's been something I've been really trying to filter out. Do I just love doing drag, or am I a trans female? Am I gender queer? Like those sorts of things are things that I'm still kind of trying to figure out, because I feel most beautiful the more femme I am. And the only reason why I don't go there as much, I think, is because it's that idea, me thinking you wouldn't be okay with that I wouldn't be lovable, that I wouldn't be sexually desirable, that I wouldn't be able to be in relationship with people in a way that I would want to. And so but again, that's my stuff. It's not, I mean, some of it's real, but a lot of it's kind of my own. But it is fun. It is a lot of fun. I feel like I've had more joy in my life since I've been able to kind of explore drag. And I know that's not like a really clean answer or clear answer. But the big thing I want to say is that drag is different for everyone. And gender identity is different for everyone too. And for me, it's still kind of been an exploration in kind of where I'm at. But I identify as I identify as being trans femme. On inside, I feel like I'm a female, like my spirit is woman, but I'm in a man body. So I will present as something in between. And that's just where I'm at right now. And I'm not sure where that will land, but you know, I've thought about hormones, and I've thought about different things to see if I wanted to try to alter my body in a way to match the way I see myself. But I'm still figuring that out, Adam. But I think I'm going to just leave it at that, unless, Tina, do you have any questions about that? Or did you have those questions?
I thought you answered it honestly and well. And I think that gives everyone an opportunity to get to know you a little better, to understand who you are and the amazing person that God's created you to be, so that we can be in prayer for one another continually, and that we can all continue to learn to love each other through our differences. So, yeah.
Well, and to be honest with you, I believe like my transness and my drag is directly connected to my seeking of God and my higher power. Like, because I have God in my life and I seek a higher power concept, or I seek a higher self, this is what comes out of me. You know, all of this is not necessarily me, but it's an expression of me to let you know how I am and how I see myself. But like, to me, this is like divinity, like me leaning more into my femininity and getting the way I am is just me getting closer to God. And that's just my experience with it, but my transness it's a spiritual awakening. It is a spiritual experience for me. And that's just the truth of it all. How it lands on my body or in my mind is what I'm still trying to figure out. Yeah. But I know with my spirit, and I know with God, with higher power or whatever, like this is a result of being closer tied and seeking a relationship with something outside of self that's bigger than self, but also that's within me.
Well, I encourage you to keep seeking, because the promise is if you seek it, you're going to find it.
For sure.
So there's another question over here too for you. Okay. It looks like.
All right. With the Rocky question or.
Yeah, either way, go ahead and finish your conversation with Adam.
Well, Adam, I was just going to say, I'm glad that you did get some understanding. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, sorry.
Figure out all these comments. It's great that we're getting interaction, because it's something we've really been wanting. Helps me understand. I've never been interested in drag. You know, I mean, it's not that serious. You know, like drag doesn't have to be that serious. I think it was a serious thing for me because of my gender identity and not being sure where it was at. But, you know, it's been quite an evolution. You know, when I was first coming out and being gay, you know, it's very common for gay men to refer to each other as she. And at that time in my life, I was very adamant. I am not a girl. Like, don't call me she. Like, I'm a man who likes other men. And I, to be honest with you, like that was some of my own internal like transphobia stuff going on there. Because why would I need to like fight it or combat it unless it was like hitting something within me? So it's definitely been a lot of growth and evolution. Let's start with Rocky. Then, what would acceptance by family and churches need to be, or what would acceptance by family and churches need to be for you to feel convinced that you're sincerely loved after years without reconciliation? Woo.
You're getting all the hard ones today.
That is the question. And the thing that I'm learning is the truth is that I haven't accepted them as they are. And that's the work that I get to do. You know, like I haven't accepted my family, or I haven't accepted churches, or I haven't accepted people and allowed people to be where they're at, flawed and maybe not understanding or knowing. You know, I want them to afford that of me, because a lot of me is still searching and still discovering and still exploring. And sometimes I feel like I have to have it all perfect in order to share it with my family or to share it with church. Like I have to have it all together. And the reality is it's not true. Right. And it's always been an exploration. And so I feel like I need to, I think that I know that my family loves me, and like, I know that I'm not allowing myself to have that relationship with them for whatever reason. And those are things that I'm working out. You know, there's just childhood shit that I'm working through, and on a personal level. But I mean, I think that's the reality of it is I've changed. I'm not who I was when I was growing up, and my parents are not who they were when I was growing up. And that's the kind of thing that I need to be able to allow them to have evolved in the same way that I have, or even if they didn't evolve, to still like be okay with that. I think
we have to always remember, Duane, and I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. that we can't expect people to give us something they don't have the ability to give us or something they don't know how to give us. And when people that are driven and motivated and have new ideas and different kinds of things, then maybe they don't understand, or maybe they don't have the ability to grasp, or they desire to give us what we need, but they just don't know what it is.
I feel like I haven't afforded. It's more about me and me not being willing to bring that forth fully with family and other relationships. I don't know where they're at with things. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but I know it's my inability to bring it to them is the issue. It's really not about any of the other things. Where should we go next?
It looks like Phyllis had something to say.
Phyllis says, I finally made it as neighbor was knocking at my door. I wear my Randy Rainbow on acid glasses to Trader Joe's and drag's on her today. You always have real and spiritual conversations. My drag is that of psychedelic lunatic. Now that I'm old, it lifts spirits. That lifted my spirit just hearing that. Thanks for joining us, Phyllis.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Phyllis.
That's awesome.
So it's interesting. So my father is on, or was on here, and then there's also a question about my relationship with my father, which is a very special relationship to me. I feel closest to my father now than I have most of my life, and again, that was just like my own thing. Hi, Dad, if you're there. I don't think I'm telling you anything new, but like I always had a hard time when I was younger, feeling like I could connect with my father. But my father has been amazing, and like he's always accepted me. He's always been really proud of me and encouraging of me. I think sometimes, he didn't know what to do with me, just in the same way that most people don't. I feel like my dad has done an amazing job in being a father to me. And again, most, I think a lot of my issues were more so, it's just my inability to kind of let go of the past, and just try to move forward with some things. After I got sober, I was able to start having some of these conversations with my father that for me really helped me to just see things differently. And I have had some space from my family the last few years. And that's been more about me than it really is them. But sometimes it takes time for us to, I guess, to be in relationship. Or I don't know, sometimes it just takes time. To be just honest, I'm just like, it's an interesting conversation to have. I don't know if you're still there, Dad, but I love you. And I'm so glad that you're in my life. And I hope you feel the same way. I know you do in my heart.
I know he does.
Sometimes but again, that's my stuff. But I love you, Dad. And thanks for the question, Donald. But I think my relationship with my father is only going to get better as time passes. Where should we go next, Tina?
Oh, I just go down the list, I guess. Oh, there's your daddy says he loves you.
I love you too, Dad.
Okay, this one's for me. Tina, how has your view for the LGBTQIA community shifted over the years? Well, I think a lot of understanding has helped me a little bit, and it's a lot of personal growth. I know that sounds selfish, but I think our perspective limits our ability to understand and to love the people around us. So over the years, I've learned to know what love means. that love really has nothing to do with someone's political agenda. Love has nothing to do with a personal opinion. Love actually is an action word that covers people, any kind of person, during whatever situation they may have. And I want to love people no matter what their sexual preference is, no matter what lifestyle they choose to live. I want to cover them. And I would hope that people would see my things, whatever they are, if they agree with them or not, that they would also take the opportunity to cover me also. So, right now, my hope would be that as I got to interact with folks and as I got to know people for who they are, not their sexual preference, that I would be able to have the ability to love them, no matter what. Go ahead, Duane.
Yeah. Did you ever, I just asked this because, did you ever think that LGBTQI folks could not be true Christians?
No, I've never thought that. And that's always been kind of
that's the misconception, right?
Yeah. And it's a misconception. And it was kind of a gray area for me as a woman of faith. And Sarah, now that I see your picture, hi, I miss you. Sarah, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but Sarah and I have a long-term relationship. She was one of those encounters I had when I was not in communication with you, Duane. And she was at the Boys and Girls Club when I was leading the teen center in Mesa. So it's good to see you, Sarah. And I'm glad to see that beautiful smile on your face. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. So for a while, that was part of my challenge was that, I understand what the Word of God says about some of these things, but I also understand what the Word of God says about love. And I believe that, like I said, love covers everything, and that I'm not called to have an opinion about anybody. I'm just called to love people. And so when I would hear things, or I would even see things on the news or see these ugly things or hear these ugly things that people were saying and doing to people under the guise of Christianity, it just broke my heart. And it made me step back a little bit and decide where I wanted to go to church if I chose to continue to go to church. What my personal thoughts and what my personal life would represent if I had an opportunity to encounter someone. And it was during that also that time of understanding, which was helpful to me when I saw some of these things, that decided, you know what, I want to pursue a relationship and I want to be open to you, Duane, as if you ever were willing to have a conversation with me. Mm-hmm. And a real conversation, not just in passing. Hey, Aunt Tina, how are you? Hey, Duane, I'm good. If we ever decided to sit down and have a conversation. Yeah. And so I'm grateful for that. So I hope that answers your question, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean that's such a severing that can happen to an individual when they're on the other side of that and they don't think that they can be divine and that God loves them and that, there was times and I, again, I'm coming up with I came up with my own thoughts or whatever, but the thing that I love most, I think the thing that clicked for me in our relationship and my willingness to let you, if you will, or let myself be in relationship with you was knowing that you saw me as a child of God, as someone who was godly and who was created by God in God's image, those sorts of things, because I know that God is such a big part of your life. And for so long, I didn't think you thought I was worthy of God, if you will, because of those things, which once I knew that wasn't true, because most of the time I felt like you were trying to change me instead of trying to just
love
know,
you,
just know me. Yeah. So
I'm glad I'm really sorry that I put you through that. And I would hope if there's anyone along the way that I was not a representation of love, then that you would have the opportunity to connect and that you would just find in your heart to give me grace in that area. because it's perceptions and I don't know. I don't even know. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that my life represents love, and it's not based on any condition.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that, to be fair, a lot of assumptions and a lot of things were placed on you where your mind or your actions were, like, you never once told me, hey girl, you're going to hell for blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that I told myself. You never once said that, but because I
Okay.
saw you as a Christian, I
You
assumed
assume.
all that stuff about
Yeah.
you.
And that's the sad part when we have, and you know what? If someone can get mad, I don't even care. We need to exercise our voice. When I saw that crazy on TV and all over the stuff, I'm grateful because it made me look into myself and say, what are my thoughts on that? Is that okay? Is that not okay? I was appalled when I saw it. I couldn't believe that was happening, and it was really frustrating to me when they would identify these people as Christians or the body of Christ, when I'm like, oh, that is not who I am at all. Mm-hmm. And so my hope is that people that are in the body of Christ would stop letting other people represent their love, because it's not true. That's not true of me. That's not true of a lot of people that I know. Like I said, my hope is that we could all find a way to love one another, share life together, and pursue, just like we were talking about before. If we seek, we're going to find. My level of seeking and finding is going to be different than yours. And my only role in loving you is to cover you and to come alongside you when you ask me to. That's it. And just know that I pray for you, and as I do for many other people. Mm-hmm. So anyway, sorry.
I feel like Bug's question and comment might kind of go in line with what you were talking about. So that's why I brought it up there. What is a good way to address Christians when they come at you with hate? I struggle not lashing out at the hate. You don't change minds with anger, and it doesn't help to tell them their own Bible verses. If like to change minds are not fight, but I struggle not flaring up. I'd like to change minds and not fight, but I struggle not flaring up.
Yeah. I'm not sure that my answer will be exactly what you're looking for, but when I have people that I talk to, and it's sad that you can just be talking to people and someone just shares their opinion. And I have a choice at that point when they share their opinion, especially if it's something that I feel is ugly. I'll just sometimes ask them and I'll say, so how do you define love? Because if someone's coming directly at you with hate, especially if they're saying that they're a Christian or a person of God, stop them. They can quote whatever scripture they want to. It can be in or out of context. I don't even care. But the real part of the matter is how do they define love? Because the Bible says that God is love. And I don't ever remember, end of story. End of story. God is love. So if I'm throwing up on you something hateful, that is not God.
Yeah.
And so my first question is always to them. And if I'm even in a group of people and someone's starting to go crazy one way or another, I'll just ask them, so how is it you define love? And if it's anything other than God is, then I feel like I can have a conversation with them about, okay, I understand what you're saying, but what about this? What about this? What about this? Because you know what? There's some really unlovely things about me. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people have some crazy opinions about my life, and that if they got me face to face, that they would try to throw up something on me. And I just want, I mean, I don't know if that's if you have the ability to do that, but I always ask people, define to me what love is, because love is not an emotion. Hate's an emotion. Love is not an emotion. Love is it's a what?
Is it an action? Sorry.
It is. No, it's fine. It's an action, and it covers, and we've already talked about that. But love is also a choice. I choose love. I choose it. When I get my dander up, I can choose to spew ugliness on you, or I can choose love. And the Bible also says God is love, but it also says that love edifies, love uplifts. Love brings things together and corrects. So why would I do anything but that?
Right.
I'm going to edify you and love you. Anyway, I hope that answered your question. If not, get back on here again and I'll try to clarify a little better.
Well, I think the thing that I want to add to that too, though, is like I think that you have to use a little discernment. I
Mm,
think that there has to be an openness on the other end, because if there's not, then
you're
it's not
right.
there. And sometimes what that takes, I think, like you and I, we were willing to meet at our heart first. We were able to know that, like for you and I, we're like, I know your heart, you know mine, and you might say something and I might say something that hits something in us and we might get upset, but we've committed to meet each other at our heart.
Right.
And that, to me, that's like the love. And so to me, I don't feel like my goal isn't to go out there to the people protesting against LGBTQ people and say you're wrong, but
Right.
it's to deal with the people within my circle. I mean, there is some performance about that, because like you said, you seeing that stuff helps you. So there is putting a visual to things is worthwhile. So going out and being seen in those sorts of conversations. But I feel like the change really happens when you can meet one another at the heart, and
Yeah.
and you have to have I don't know. I think that there's a certain amount of energy that you want to put into it, and that you can put into it. So I think being more mindful about who it is that you want to spend that energy on, I think is, for me, a way of approaching that.
That's good
Um,
knowledge, Duane. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah. Should we go to another question? I think Rocky's been waiting for a minute.
Oh, okay. I kind of lost track of everything over here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when was your first recollection of seeing beyond binary values perspectives? And thank you for being open to answering difficult questions. Well, I feel like I've seeing beyond the binary, and values and perspectives. I mean, I think, that starts in the idea of thinking, around equality, like just like equality conversations around women and men, or LGBTQ folks and that sort of thing. But I think it's first recollection of seeing beyond binary. I think for me, it's when I first see it, when I saw my first queer person, when I worked, and that's not a bad word for me, but when I saw my first queer person, I was working at a restaurant. And so I think for me, a big part is just getting a chance to see it visibly. Then I saw gays at the Denny's called Jenny's. And then I just was never really exposed to it. But once I saw people and once I was connected with people, I was like, oh, that's me. Like I connect with that. I understand that. Whereas before I just was looking. I was like, where are my people? Where are the people I can identify with? I don't fit in here. I don't fit in there. I don't, whatever. And once I started to see people who were more in that genderqueer kind of spectrum, I felt like I saw myself in them. And I feel like that was more recent than later, like it was, I guess, little pecks that over time allowed me to kind of break open and see beyond it, because I was so rigid about what is this and what is that. And even if I would think of transness, it was either you're going to transition from a male, stereotypical male, to a female, and that there's no room for that in between. Whereas my understanding of gender, it's a spectrum, and we all land across it, and there isn't necessarily something a man does, a woman does, that makes them a man or a woman or whatever. I don't know that I answered your question, but I attempted. Any new comments that you saw, Tina? Did you want to?
I'm kind of zooming through. Looks like there's another comment from Vicky for you, and just some encouragements. You can pop them up if you want to.
Do you want to ask me that question?
I think Vicky did it really well. I'm not sure what that campaign is, so this is an area out of my knowledge.
I have no idea either. I've never heard it before. Maybe if you could, Vicky, put the link in the comments, and then that way we can check it out, as well as other folks can check it out as well.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. I've not heard of that either.
Yeah, thank you. And then Charlie says, "What's up, Tina?"
Hey, Charlie.
Bug
We
is,
appreciate your encouragement and your questions. Thank you so much for that.
yeah, lots of. So Bonnie are talking about a safe space. No, I'm not sure what that question is.
I think it was pertained to Bug's question about people, and you brought up the discernment that's needed. So I think he was just giving you kudos on that.
Yeah. And I think my dad says he loves us.
I love you too, Alvito.
And I think just basically wishing we could be more comfortable, I think, or I'm not quite sure. Sometimes it's hard when we're texting and on our phones and stuff, but I love you, Dad, and we'll talk. Vicky says she'll put the link. I think I got everyone.
I think
of
so.
the questions so far. All right.
Awesome. Man, we really appreciate you guys asking questions because this makes it easier for us.
Yeah, I know we were having that conversation this morning. We were like, we hope people would engage with us, and partly because we're like, what do we talk about today?
Yeah, we don't know what to say. We don't know how much of our in-depth stories you really want to hear.
Well, and the thing that I appreciate though is it's kind of caused us, I think, to ask those questions that
that's true.
Even if it's of one another or people are asking us and we get to share it and hear from the other person, even if we haven't asked you yet directly.
Yeah. And I just think it's good to have a conversation because like we just in these few questions that we've had, there's so many misconceptions and ideas and, there's only one truth. And so if we all have a conversation, we'll all eventually get to that truth. And we just need to be open to one another and, love and support one another, the best we can, because none of us are perfect, right?
Yeah. I almost want to, like, when you say there's one truth, I almost want to challenge that. I know that, like, there's a part of it, like, I know that because I feel like I've spent a lot of my life trying to escape the truth, right? Mm-hmm. But I do believe that there's a truth that's just within us. And it's about like kind of like getting that or whatever. But I don't think that it's interesting because I think that truth can be experienced differently though, by different people. Like, so I might not see your truth as the truth, but because I see the things the way I see them, it is like my truth or my reality, even if it's not, like, I don't know. I think there is a bigger truth, right? But there can be a lot of other things that are true to us in the moment, even if they're not. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much.
No, I think I understand. I agree with you. Each one of us were created uniquely. Each one of us has a specific purpose. Each one of us has this specific reason that we've been placed here. And I think we all have that truth that you talked about that's deep within each of us. But as we go on this journey that we all call life, as crazy and rocky as it is, I think you're going to have those moments of unique opportunities that minister specifically to you. Yeah. Those things are going to allow you to walk through a particular door or whatnot. So, yeah, I think we just articulate it different, but I think we're on the same page.
Well, I think a lot of like, and you might use this as like the enemy kind of talk or whatever.
Yeah.
The world and things within the world and life gets in the way of our ability to connect with that. Like,
you're right. You're exactly right.
One of the things that really brought me into the idea of identifying as a queer chaplain and really wanting to get back into spiritual work with people in whatever way that looked was around the passing of my nephew, Wyatt. That in that experience, to get that call and to be living in Chicago and then to show up in the ICU and this little guy is so full of wires and so many things. And, I was like, I'm like the uncle, I'm the only uncle, like I'm the son of my parents, I'm my brother's big brother. And I remember just getting there and being like, feeling so much like I knew that I didn't know what was best. Like I was able to just kind of let that go. I was able to say, I don't know if I don't know how this should end. I don't know what the best result is. I don't know how this is going to play out. So all I'm going to do is, I remember just kind of giving it, like just feeling like I could give it to God, or just being desperate enough to say, here, like, you got this kind of experience. Yeah. And then I was able to just show up, like I was able to just show up, and my brother asked me to hold Wyatt when he passed. I did it, like when we needed to do something at the Mormon church and my family's not Mormon, like I did it, and I didn't even think about it. It was like stuff that I normally would have been scared of, but because I think I was connected in that truth, if you will, it wasn't about me, that I could just use whatever gifts I had collected in my time on earth, and even my spirituality in that moment, to where I can just show up and be the best uncle, brother, son, that I could be, for my family. And that was such a beautiful moment in my life that, I mean, I'll never be the same. Yeah.
I think you articulated that perfectly. So that's a tough share. Thank you for sharing it with all of us.
Yeah. There's so much more to it too, but
I know so many places you could go and different things we could talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Looks like we're coming up on time though, so we don't want to keep all these folks online.
I know, right? Yeah, we are. We're right on time, huh? So, do you want to send us out?
I can try. I don't know how to wrap this up.
I'd like to say thank you to everybody. We'll see you next week. That sort of stuff.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for logging in. We are so amazed and blessed that you spent some time with us. Get your questions together. We're going to be back here next week at the same time. You'll see us on both our Facebook's lives. You can go back and see our previous episodes on our Facebook page, Splintered Grace, as well as our Facebook pages in some other areas. I think Duane's got them going in the comments down here. And feel free to reach out to us. So everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful week, and happy Monday. Mwah.
Take care. Bye-bye now. Splintered Grace Podcast is brought to you by a queer chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at a queer chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Steven Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Steven.